serious issues such as this. I've been at Cal Poly Bourne for 11 years. On a scale of 1 to 10, this has been a 10 every year. Those of you who go to school here, I want you to be proud of your university. When I teach, I don't allow my students to come in my class wearing paraphernalia from USC, Berkeley, UCLA, because you don't pay your tuition there. You're just as talented, just as creative, just as gifted as any student at these other universities. But I don't want to be long-winded. I learned my lesson about giving long-winded lectures. I was lecturing a few years ago, and one of the students in my front row was asleep. And so I turned to the guy beside him. I said, "John, wake him up." And John said, "No, you wake him up. You put him to sleep." I wrote my first book, American Paradox, Young Black Men, back in 2004. The thesis of this book is that young black men have embraced one monolithic model of black masculinity, and that's the gangster thug model. And the enthusiastic embrace of this model is detrimental to an entire generation of young black men, manifested in gang violence, manifested in anti-intellectualism, manifested in underachievement in school. I remember being at the Cape Coast, the Elmina Slave Castle in the Cape Coast of Ghana back in 2000. And this place is the first permanent structure built for the slave trade to the Americas south of the Sahara Desert. And I remember feeling angry that my ancestors had been subjected to this evil called slavery. I remember going down to the dungeon, to the gate of no return, and looking out, peering out at this gate, reflecting on my ancestors leaving this castle, getting on ships, never to return to the motherland. And when I got to my lodge that night, I became angrier. I became angry at a generation of young blacks, especially young black men who have taken for granted the trials and tribulations of that generation. That inspired me to write the first paragraphs of American Paradox, Young Black Men. There was a young man serving a 12-year sentence for manslaughter, gang violence, at Centinela State Prison, who had read American Paradox, and he wrote me a letter and he talked about how this book, reading this book, had transformed his mindset. He was a shot caller. In other words, he was at the top of the prison hierarchy down in Centinela State Prison. So he wrote me this letter, and I decided to go visit him down in Centinela State Prison in Imperial, California, about 2 hours away from San Diego. I had a chance to speak with this young man and had a chance to talk to some people in the IYO program, Incarcerated Youth Offenders Program. And I spoke for about 20-25 minutes, and then I opened the floor for questions and answers. But when I opened the floor for questions and answers, I found these African-American men, young men, to be articulate, intellectually curious, and just really